So with the Luocha banner just around the corner, I want to do a video talking about a summary of his skills and the way he works, some pros and cons, and go into whether or not he's worth pulling for you personally. Now, where we've got the skills from is they have announced them all over on Honkai Lab, so we won't have multipliers or anything like that, but you can get a good idea for how he works. I'll leave this in the description, and you can go ahead and check this out in your own time if you want to. But in general, before we even go into the summary, should you pull for a character? Number one, the more I play this game, the more I'm an advocate for pulling for a character that you think you will enjoy the gameplay of, or you just like that character. For me personally, Luocha doesn't fit that bill, so even if I didn't have a second healer, I personally would not pull for him just because he's not, I don't think he looks crazy fun. Now that could change. Maybe he comes out and he does a bunch of things that I didn't think I would enjoy, then maybe I would. But at this stage, me personally, he doesn't seem like a massively fun character. Now, I'll let you guys make that decision on whether you like him. As for the meta style, I think everyone in themselves has a balance of how much they care about pushing and meta and how much they care about an actual character. And I feel like that balance is something important to look at. And I'm going to look later on, once we go through the basic summary of him and his pros and cons, I'm going to go into my account and talk about the things to consider when you're looking at pulling for him based on meta, because you need, which you don't, but you know, that second healer type thing. And it's more about considering how much additional progress will he give you and how many extra jades will he give you, and is that amount of extra jades worth pulling a character that maybe isn't your favorite? So that's, I think, a big balance that comes into consideration, especially in a game like this, which is very casual. And like I said, the more I play this game, the less I care about quote unquote getting meta units, because it's more about just chilling out and having fun with the characters you enjoy. That is my personal view on it so far. But let's go through the basics of what he does. Like I said, I'll leave that link to Honkai Lab. You can go check it out, look at animations and stuff like that. But TLDR version is his basic attack does damage. It's imaginary damage. Imaginary is not too bad. I mean, we got not much imaginary out there. We will get Yukong on his banner as well, which isn't too bad. But we'll talk about the banner in a sec. Next up, we have his skill, which is a single target heal that removes one debuff from an ally, and it gives him one stack of Abyss Flower, which is his passive, which we'll look at in a sec. On top of that, it has a passive portion to his skill, where when an ally falls below 50%, he will at no cost proc a usage of his skill on that ally, but this does have a 2-turn cooldown. His ultimate is going to be an AoE damage with a strip of 1 buff from all enemies, and it's also going to grant him 1 stack of Abyss Flower. His passive is going to consume 2 stacks of Abyss Flower, so once he gets up to 2 stacks, whether it being using 2 skills, skill and ult, whatever it may be, once he gets those 2 stacks, he will consume them and put a field on the field for 2 turns. And basically, when allies attack enemies in that field, they will heal all allies for a little bit and themselves for more. We don't know exact numbers. Basically, the healing of themselves is tied into the skill, the passive itself, and the healing of allies is tied into a trace. And that is pretty much what he does. So when you look at his kit, you can see that he's got a lot of passive healing, which is really nice, which allows him to use a lot of basic attacks, which is going to be good for skill point generation. In general, yes, I think Luocha is going to be a great healer. He's going to be a great unit for your team, and he's going to allow you to play it more offensively. So I think if you're early on, he's going to struggle a little bit because, you know, you're struggling to survive more and he doesn't have that burst of healing. But once you start looking later on, once you start getting geared, more characters built, level 80, I think he's going to be a really effective healer for that stuff. But simple pros and cons. Pro number 1, he's a healer. We only got 1 free-to-play healer, like we spoke about before. If you don't have a second healer, it is nice to have a second healer. 2 is the smart healing. I love heals that proc on specific things, like the below 50%, and then he's going to proc that passive heal. It's really, really nice. Then we've got the strip. We can strip AoE, which is really nice. We've got a cleanse for allies. Both of these are only 1. His ult only removes 1 buff from an enemy, and his skill only removes 1 debuff from an ally, but still it's quite nice things to have. Then damage based, he's damage based with imaginary break. Now, imaginary, it's great because having imaginary coverage is really good when we don't have that much in the game at the moment, and in current rotations of Memory of Chaos, we're seeing a lot of imaginary weak units. Obviously, I would say that is planned to make him look more inviting. And then we also have the ones that we want to strip AoE, which is making him look more inviting as well. But it's also the fact that his ultimate is damage based, which is going to be good for breaking units. So I always, when I talk about why I like Asta, for instance, is because she brings a lot to free to play in that not only does she have support, but she also does a lot of break, and that's going to help you with survival as well as dealing damage. So having that extra break capacity in him means he's going to break a lot more than when you use something like a Bailu or a Natasha. Then finally, the passive healing allows for high basic usage. I already mentioned this, but the field is really nice because it's just passive healing. Like you just attack into it, you're going to heal. I think he's going to have great synergies with something like Clara, who's going to revenge. So she's just, every time she gets attacked, she's going to keep attacking back and then healing everyone up, which I think is going to be crazy good. So probably the only reason I'm tempted to pull for him is because he pairs well with Clara, and I'm a big Svarog fan. And then, yeah, because he does have that healing field, he's got the passive on his skill. Now, sometimes you will get in hairy situations where you're going to have to use his skill more often, and you're going to have to make use of those heals. But in general, hopefully he will be able to, because he has all those other healings, he will be able to use a lot of basic attacks and generate skill points for your teams. Now, when we go on to the cons, it's kind of like a Ting Yun situation where he is kind of squishy if you build him to maximize healing, because his healing is scaling off of his attack. So sometimes I think it's going to be kind of like Ting Yun, where maybe you sacrifice a little bit of the attack optimization to put some defensive stats on him so that he can survive, because at the end of the day, him surviving is also going to be very important. So it's going to be a bit of a balance, but when you compare it to Bailu and also to Natasha, who heal based on HP, they're just really tanky units that as you get them tankier, they heal more, which is pretty solid. But on the flip side, when you start looking at trying to speed clear content, having him based on attack is nice because he has damage dealing ultimate, and he's going to use his basic a lot. It means he's going to get more damage out of it whilst also maintaining a high level of healing. So it's just one of those yin and yang things based on where you are in the game and what you're trying to achieve. The next con is going to be that he has low AoE burst healing capacity. Unlike Bailu and Natasha, who both have an ultimate that's a heal, his ultimate is damage. So you really, you lose that flexibility in, okay, it's the enemy's turn, I've got my ult gauge full. If you've got Natasha or Bailu, you go, okay, they did a hit, I really need to heal. I can pop my ult and I can heal now. You lose that capability, but if you plan out your team, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. And then the final one is that he has no offensive buffs. Now, this is based off E0. His Eidolons may make him more of a buffing type unit, which would be crazy, but I still think in the future, what like the kind of healer that I'm really looking for myself, a 5-star healer that I would actually pull for on an exclusive banner, myself personally, this is just me, is a healer that's also like a buffer, being, you know, they give attack buffs, crit buffs, whatever it may be. I don't know, maybe they don't introduce that type of thing into this game, but a lot of turn-based games you play, you do end up getting healers that are also offensive buffers, and those are the ones I would look to personally, because that's where I see the game shifting to, but he is still on that offensive path of things. So that's basically skill summary, pros, cons, general thoughts around him. Like I said, I think Clara is going to be an amazing teammate for him, which gets me kind of excited. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see if that pushes me to do a few extra pulls to try and get him on my free-to-play account, because on my free-to-play account, I am saving for the Mono Quantum team, so we'll have to see how that goes. Next up, I wanted to touch on the banner and the 4 stars on the banner, because that's always a consideration as well. First of all, we have Pella. Pella's a great unit to have a copy of. I don't think Eidolons are the most important thing. If you're rocking like a Yang Qing or something, or looking to ice characters in the future, then E4 is going to be nice to get that extra ice damage, but in general, having a copy of Pella is enough for me. QQ or Ching Chui, however you want to say her, she is the main reason that I am going to do some pulls on this banner. On my free-to-play account, I have her at E3 at the moment, and I want E4 so bad. E4 completely enhances the gameplay of Ching Chui, giving her a chance to do follow-up attacks, which essentially double the damage of her basics, which, when you get the enhanced basics, can be a lot of damage. So her at E4 and also E6 is huge, because E6 starts giving her some more skill efficiency, E4 starts giving her the damage. I think she is a fantastic one to get the Eidolons for if you care about her. I know a ton of people already have Zila and they got her builds and they're like, I don't care about more quantum damage. That's fair, but if you do like Ching Chui, then her Eidolons are really good from this banner. And then we also have Yukong, who's a new character who I'm not going to speak about too in depth in this one, but she is new character. She is another imaginary unit, and she is supportive, giving the attack, crit rate, crit damage buffs and stuff like that, whilst also providing a good deal of break, and by extension, a decent bit of damage as well. But I haven't run calculations or anything like that, but just based on the way they've designed her, buffer with break and damage is essentially the way she's going to work. So those are the 4 stars. Like I said, it's honestly not a bad banner by any stretch of the imagination. For me personally, like I said, Ching Chui is going to be the main reason I do a few pulls on this banner to try and get her to E4 at the least. And now I wanted to have that discussion that I mentioned, talking about if you're pulling him for meta, everyone has a balance of meta versus just wanting characters. And I think for everyone personally, like there is no just straight answer of, oh, pulling him is going to get you this many extra jades, which is going to, you know, get you exactly where you need to be. But I think it's just looking at your account and realistically thinking to yourself, okay, if I have a second healer, how many extra stars in Memory of Chaos am I going to get? If we look here on my account, this is I did a whole video on this account yesterday if you want a summary of the things I've been doing on this one. But this is where I'm using only 4 stars, E0, free light cones, except for the Fire MC. And then that's basically what I'm using to progress through the game. And if you look at this account, I've cleared 9, I'm into 10, I've got 22 stars so far. And when I look at this account and I'm like, okay, if I pull Luocha, I honestly believe in the next round, we've only got 1 day left on this one. I think by the end of the next cycle of it, I could get 2 stars on 8 and at least 1 star on 9. That was just unfortunate that I had a character die on 9. But when I look at this on my account personally, I'm like, okay, how many more stars would having Luocha get me? If I'm not at the stage where I can finish things quick enough for 3 stars, maybe he does make it a bit more efficient, especially on something like this guy, because he's just perfect for it. But in general, if I look at this account and I'm like, when I think next cycle, realistically, I should be able to get 2 stars on 8, 1 star on 9. At most, he's going to get me an extra. If magically pulling that Luocha makes me get all the stars, then like I said, if I think I'm going to get 24 stars next cycle, then essentially he is getting me an extra. And I don't even think he would get me all the way. I don't think he would get me to 3-starring 10. I just think I need more on my account to do that. But let's say that's 120 extra jades per 2 weeks. That's, call it 240 jades a month. Let's say it's 3 months before we get a free-to-play healer. At 240 jades a month, what are we at? We're at like 7, Jesus, my math, 720, Jesus. I put myself on the spot. What is that? Like 720 extra jades in 3 months that he's going to get me. Is 720 jades worth me pulling for a character that I don't like as much and then missing another character that I really want, whether it be Kafka, Blade, whoever it is in the future, Fu Xuan, who I'm actually saving for to do the mono quantum because I like that kind of thing. So I can't tell you on your account, but that's just the thing I would weigh up. I would look at it and go, so say I don't have a second healer. If I got a Luocha, how many stars do I think he's going to get? And do I think that value proposition of those extra stars and the jades they give me is worth it? Is an extra 10 pull in, like, let's say it was an extra 10 pull in a month, or the 2 month period, whatever it is. Like I said, mine's going to be like 720 jades in how long? 3 months or whatever it was. I can't remember what I said anymore. But you know what I mean? That many jades is just not impactful enough, and it's not enough for me to warrant pulling for a character that I don't love. Like I said at the start, if you love Luocha and you think he's cool and it just makes you feel better having that second healer and you're just going to enjoy yourself more, that's 100%. Do it. Pull for it. Go nuts. But in general, I think weigh up, see what you think and where you're realistically at. If you're right, if you're like, okay, yeah, I've spammed refreshes, my character's level 80, so on and so forth. But let's say you're stuck at stage 5 and you're getting 0 stars on 5, but when you go through and you do the first one, the first wave of it, like you're finishing that wave and you're already down below 28 cycles. You're not really going to get to the point where you're getting a ton of extra. Yeah, you may get an extra, like once I said, I feel like 6 extra, if you don't have a second healer and then you pick up Luocha, I feel like a reasonable expectation is to get an extra 3 to 6 stars in the Memory of Chaos. And I feel like that's the main impact he's going to have, because at the end of the day, if you don't have the damage, you don't have the damage. You're still going to need to level up. You're going to need to get better gear and stuff like that. I just don't think an extra healer is that magical I win the game button that's going to get you 3 stars on everything and clear the entire Memory of Chaos. That's just the way I look at it. But once again, I think look at your account, and if you want to pull him for that meta case, just look at it, weigh it up and say, okay, do I think he can get me how many stars? How many Jades is that going to be over the next how long? Is that a good value proposition? Do I think it's then worth doing that? Completely up to you. Like I said, once again, if you just like him, pull for him. I am a big advocate in this game for pulling for the characters that you like, because he's more of a casual game. And like I said, eventually you will be clearing through everything. When I look at what I'm doing on this account with like free characters, essentially for just 4 stars, E0s, free Lycones, you know, eventually you will get there. So that's what I would weigh up personally. I'm not telling you you should or shouldn't pull him. Once again, you do you. That's my summary. Me personally, I will pull on his banner for some Ching Chai copies. And hopefully if I get a 5-star, it's an off banner so that my pity goes towards the next thing. But that is over on my free-to-play account where I already have Bailu and Jeopard as well. So hey, maybe if I pull Luocha, I'll use him with my Clara and I'll have fun with it. But we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, guys, that is my basic summary. Sorry at the end for rambling. It's just always a touchy subject when you talk about should you pull for something, because basically my whole theory is pull for what you enjoy. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.